As you step away, Chaz, do you leave?
Based on like the blood pressure spike that I just had a few minutes ago as I was talking, I think it's taking every like ounce of energy from Chaz to keep his mouth shut and to keep his hands still. So that's all he's doing. That's all he can do.
G'day! Welcome to the Stream of Chaos. My name is Dave, and I should be Keeper of Arcane Lore for this session of Call of Cthulhu. Jackson's gone walkabout. Today we're continuing Chapter 2 of A Time to Harvest. You can get your own copy from Chaosium.com, and all the previous episodes are available on the Chaosium YouTube. If you want to join us live, we stream at 3 p.m. Pacific each Friday. That was the other part of that I was missing. Thank you to Roll20 and Sirenscape for being great tools which we use to improve our game. Now, a quick recap from where we ended last session. Our students have all returned for a new year, a new semester at the Miskatonic University in Arkham, and over the first day they discovered that some of the students that they traveled with during the previous chapter have returned. They have attended some classes and they've been sternly reprimanded by the Dean of Students. They then all retired to their dorms for the evening, and the new investigator, Joe, who is a sort of like adjacent friend, acquaintance of the party maybe, saw a strange dream, which I'm sure will be pursued as we continue. Now then, let's go around the table and meet each of our investigators, and as you introduce yourselves and your investigators, because where we pick up it's going to be sort of like early morning, can you kind of describe your room, your dormitory, like how you've got it set up a little bit, what your space looks like and how you've made it your own? Art, why don't you begin with Sebastian?
Amazing. Hi, I'm Art. I'm playing Sebastian McCarthy, one of the McCarthys at the Miskatonic University. Is not generally used to being reprimanded by anyone except maybe his parents. Seb is one of the upperclassmen, so money, yo. Which means that his dormitory is slightly more fancy in as much as it's probably not a dormitory so much as a room, and probably I like to think there's a separately enclosed like bathroom, ensuite kind of jazz. I genuinely don't know how big this room would be, but there is definitely enough space for a nice like 4-poster bed. He's got like a little writing, like an old wooden writing desk with like a light set up on it, and like a chair in front, just like for studying. I'm gonna go there's a fireplace, because fuck that, like there's a fireplace here. It's just like, it's not a massive one, it's like a little like hole in the wall kind of thing, but there is, because it's in one of the older buildings. Let's go with that. Whether it works or not, who knows, but there is a fireplace. The room is like neat-ish, but there's definitely like a jacket thrown over the back of the writing chair and like things that are sort of just like strewn in places that aren't necessarily the floor, they're just on backs of furniture. I'll give him a nice reading chair as well that's got like his bag on it and a bunch of stuff. So it's neat, but it is not tidy. It is like someone is used to other people picking up after him. But like he's also, you know, I don't want to make extra work for the people who work for me. That's just rude. But you know, it's someone else's job to deal with like the small things.
Yeah, sure. That's what you've got other people for. Perfect. So that's Seb over in the West Dormitory. Let's check in with Chaz, played by Jackson.
Hey, I'm Jackson. I'm out of focus.
Whoa!
Hey,
There we go.
I'm Jackson, and I'm playing Chaz Dedrick, who is his dorm is probably like got plenty of exercise equipment lying around that's slowly gathering dust because he doesn't quite know how to use it. Dumbbells and I don't know, like one of those big stretchy ropey things. He definitely doesn't know how to use those, but you know, he flexes and thinks it looks cool. Along with a good smattering of you know, sports trophies, which all seem to be from like his elementary and middle school period. And,
When you really
overachieved. Dropped off a little bit. Yeah.
Was it just because you were a big kid for the most part and you were larger than the other students?
I think that's what it is. And he's just coasted. But there is a bit of a line, like an odd couple style line drawn down the middle where the other side of the dorm is quite Spartan and sparsely decorated, where you could run into his roommate, Gerard. Gerard Foreman, who, you know, he kind of leaves alone for the most part because Gerard is weirdly in his 30s or 40s, and no one fully understands why he's here at the university taking classes still. But yeah,
And why he's in
like,
a dormitory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard that he's been at the university for 12, 15 years, just taking classes because he's wealthy and that's what he does. And apparently his house is being renovated right now. He decided to move into the dormitories since he was coming here every day anyway. But like, because he's like an old gent, Chaz doesn't really know how to interact with him because he can't really bully him, and he also like doesn't think he's cool, so he doesn't want to see him with him, so he just kind of ignores him. That's that's Chaz's
That's fantastic. Perfect. All right, thanks so much. Let's go over to the Dorothy Upman Hall, where Katie has a room.
Absolutely, yes. My room is very neat. It's tidy. There are posters on the wall of like mathematical figures. I think there's a little shelf set that I've put up. It's the classic geeks room. But I think that if you were somebody who is maybe particularly aware of what is geek credible or geek cool at this point, I'm maybe about 6 months out of date or something like that. With a new semester starting, I should have updated everything. I should have picked new people, new theories that I was really into, but I was a little distracted after the whole disaster of our previous session. So everything now is, you know, to the nerd, you know, terribly fashionably uncool, as opposed to everyone else where it's just regular, obscure, and uncool.
So, sorry, what kind of posters would you have? Like local, cool philosophers and things strung up?
I think I've probably got like a bust of some, you know, critical mathematician. I know that there's like a bunch of innovations in early maths in the 20th century that's happening. So I'd probably have like prominently displayed like books on set theory or something like that, which are about to get turfed out as new ideas come through. All kinds of boring stuff.
Do you think Katie might have gone up?
I was gonna say, do you have like, because every nerd has the semester calendar. Have you not put the correct semester calendar up yet? Is that like still a to-do?
I think that is the perfect level. That is just where I am. And you know, I've probably even got like books in my little bookshelf of cool things where I've got like all the classic fundamental texts that I've read a bunch of times, and put round the wrong way so you can't see the spine of the book is some of the occult books that were related to our last adventure. But I don't want anybody to know that I'm looking into such trivial things.
I was thinking, would you have a blackboard somewhere in the room with like the current impossible mathematical problem or something very Good Will Hunting-esque, which you're sort of like working on?
I think I did, and you could see all the workings that I had around it, but most of it's been erased, and there is now my attempt to recreate the discs that I half. And, you know, I'd gotten through, and there's sort of like a half sketch of them and some maths around that.
So Seb doesn't have a roommate because they're in one of the nicer dormitories, but you would. Is your roommate across most of this, or just kind of keeps himself?
I like to think that my roommate is kind of a mirror of me, but somebody who hasn't gone through all of the bizarre occult side. Mm-hmm. So I think that their room is a little neater, and you know, I've got my own little odd couple thing in the same way going, except you know, my books are slightly at an 80-degree angle instead of a 90-degree angle, and that's just completely outrageous.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, we don't have to travel.
I'm thinking now that, you know, I know that Violet's away at the moment. I'm thinking that if the tension between the two of us gets too bad, I might have to go and sleep in Violet's room because, you know, I can just pretend to be her.
Perfect. So we don't have to travel very far because speaking of Violet, just across the hall in another room is Alex playing Joe, who is Violet's roommate.
Yeah. Violet and Joe's room is... There's neat, there's tidy, there's clean, and then there's Spartan and military precise. And their room is clean in a very kind of military, everything's in its place, everything is deliberately placed kind of way. There's the two beds. They've got like a neat couch with some pillows that doesn't look like it's ever been sat on. Mm-hmm. There's one dresser, which is got some nice cosmetics on it. that's next to Violet's bed. There's sports, pennants, and trophies on shelves. They're all Violet's, though. There is, if you were to kind of dig around a little bit, there would be a case under Joe's bed, which has her trophies in it. She didn't really put them up. But she doesn't seem to have an issue with Violet displaying hers. And the closer you look, the more you kind of realize that everything that's on display in this room is Violet's. But it's a very kind of very neat and put together space that looks virtually unlived in. One thing you would notice as soon as you walked in is that it smells quite heavily of perfume. And if it's been a couple of days since anyone's been there, the reason becomes very, very obvious that if it doesn't smell like perfume, it's going to smell like gym socks and sweat, because these are two sporty women.
Yeah.
And it's kind of almost become a habit that whenever you leave the room, you just give it a couple of spritz of perfume, because it's very, very challenging in dormitory life to make sure that everything stays aired out as it should.
How long have you been in this dormitory? Like, is this you've just moved into this room and you haven't had a chance to make it your own yet? Or has there been a year or more where you still haven't really unpacked and personalized?
Yeah, it's been like a year or more. And in terms of unpacking and personalizing, I think Joe's definitely got kind of a trunk at the end of the bed that has her sports gear in it. She's got maybe one shelf where she keeps books and study materials, which is pretty dusty. She doesn't really grab stuff out, but it definitely, the room does not look lived in from her perspective at all. It's kind of like she just sleeps there. There's not really a lot of her in the room, or if there is, it's not on display.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, perfect. So those are our 4 investigators and the rooms that they're staying in. A little bit of context on each of them. So Seb, you are over in the West Dormitory, which is the sort of the space for upperclassmen and the more wealthy students who are able to sort of bribe their way into them. It is a much nicer building. It's all like these small little rooms filled with old furniture, but it's so much better in comparison to the East Dormitory where Chaz is, and you're able to personalize it a lot. So I imagine you've sort of secured probably a room that's normally for 2 people, so it's a bit bigger, and you've squeezed some old furniture that you've raided from around the campus into it and kind of made it your own. 4 poster beds and things kind of suit that aesthetic of like kind of out of place, very the big loft.
There's one of those old, like, slightly threadbare but still like very well made like reading chairs that's just like put up next to the desk, like where it gets a decent amount of light through the window during the day, and then like is accessible from like the reading lamp on the desk, which he posts himself up. He probably uses like one of his trunks as a like ottoman to put his feet up on. Like he doesn't have an actual ottoman, but it's that like keeping an eye out for something. But yeah, absolutely, it's all like stuff that has been relocated, but all because it's in one of the nice areas. It's old, but it's still nice, like still good quality. It's that like antique that will last for 200 years because it's just made so well.
Just solid. So that's the West Dormitory. Over on the East Dormitory, which is referred to as Hell East on campus, Chaz, that's your space. This is a shithole. The plumbing is awful. The heating doesn't work. Most of the rooms leak. It's infested with rodents, which is a cool little extra. And it is largely rumored to have been like soon to be condemned. And it's a matter of time before they knock the thing down. There's no saving it. A new thing needs to be built there. Everyone's jammed in. Exactly. You know, it's somewhere to hang your hat, although the hook might fall off the wall. It's also got very little privacy.
There's probably one thing about the girls' rooms, Violet, I'm not sure about Katie's rooms, but Joe and Violet's room in particular. This week, there are 2 very nice fancy dresses hung on the wall, kind of hung up above the wardrobe, because there is going to be a dance at the end of the week. So the girls have got their got their dresses out. One of them is very fashionable, extremely in style, very nicely made. Obviously, someone has saved up for a long time and really kind of gone looking for something beautiful. The other one is definitely handmade and about a foot longer. Good.
Just drapes
Nice
down
quality.
the whole wall. Yeah.
But it it's kind of, it's a bit less stylish, but there are two very nice fancy dresses on the wall.
Oh yeah, got to get all prepared for the big fall dance event of the season, event of the year, first one at least.
I found the perfect dress, the ideal one that was going to fit me, and then Violet bought it because, of course, she did.
Yeah.
You had to go with the second choice.
I don't have one yet. I've got to sort that out too. But...
Add it to the file. The hall which you guys are in is the Dorothy Upman Hall. It was founded by a woman who donated a significant portion of money to the campus, and one of the conditions was that women be allowed to attend the university on the same stance as the men. It is it's funny, Joe, you mentioned it being like very military, your layout. The hall is run a little bit like that.
Yeah.
There's this old caretaker who is an absolute weapon of a woman who runs the hall, and it's very, you're not to go out after night, you're to check in each evening. When you're all supposed to be in bed, you can hear her walking along the hallways and checking at doors to making sure no boys or other students have snuck in. There will be no fraternizing. The girls are expected to be clean and keep themselves well behaved. It is very military's a good way to explain it.
Violet's cool, isn't she? Like, she's trendy and cool and popular and everyone likes her. All right, well, then there's definitely, we're on the second floor, I'm going to say. But there's definitely, we've jimmied open the window so that Violet can go out and do cool girl things.
Hell yeah.
She needs to.
Yeah, and you can sort of sneak out impromptu rope ladder or something each evening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Tell me there's a trellis.
Yes,
There has to be a trellis.
There's a trellis. It's
Like
something can ascend and descend.
growing up it or something.
Awesome. As far as the other students that you've met previously, Clarissa is staying in the Dorothy Upman. Terrence Laszlo is in the West dormitory, and everyone else is in the East. We'll flag, though, you have not seen any of them coming or going from their rooms, with the exception of Harry Higgins, who was previously dorming with Louis. You probably would have seen him coming back late last night, Chaz, to his room, but none of the others have really been around. So lastly, as we wake up in the next morning, day 2 of classes, an exciting Tuesday, Joe, when you wake, you're in like a cold sweat, and you can still feel your heart kind of racing as the memory of this strange dream that you had last night continues to kind of play over in your mind. You're picturing trees rising up around you, red glowing eyes, and the sound of something that you believe to be John Jeffrey echoing in your mind. Can you please give me a sanity roll?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
My sanity is real low.
Oosh. Can you please take a D3?
Yeah, I can.
D3.
Uh-huh.
That was a real mythos dream. That wasn't just a nightmare.
There was something to it, and it refuses to
silly.
fade.
I rolled a D. Yeah.
There you go,
Yeah,
perfect.
there we go.
So
Yeah.
reduce your sanity accordingly. And
Love it.
How do you react? How does the morning proceed?
Reducing sanity. Bam. Joe's gonna and just kind of make a noise, and then kind of sprint out of bed, like launches out of bed, hurls herself down the corridor to the shared bathrooms, and just immediately spews.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Like that's the dream response, is just immediate spew. Just once that's over with, pull myself together, look out the windows in the hallways. What time is it roughly? Is it still really early? Overslept, underslept?
It's quite early. The sun's only just rising. It's probably like 6:30 or so.
Perfect. Shorts
6:30
on.
late for track.
Shorts on, jersey on, going for a run.
Perfect.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
Picking up an apple on the way. always got a stash of, food is fuel, and has always got a stash of something in the room, and kind of grab an apple and then head out the door, and then come back in and grab a second apple, head out the door, and go for a run, and just run and run and run and run until I'm basically comatose again. Just
So
run it
idea-
out, just run it out, just exercise to get the endorphins.
You begin to run, doing like a full lap of the campus and taking in all the older buildings. Most of the other students aren't up yet, and the dormitories are only just stirring to life. You're probably one of the first to leave the building. The memory sticks with you, and as you go around, you just continue to hear John's voice echoing in your mind, saying, "Help me."
If there's
So you
any
can see
kind
where it
of
takes you.
directional stuff, then I'd probably be unconsciously trying to follow it, trying to follow his voice, even though it's in my mind, if there's any kind of sensation of where it'd go. But hate long distance running, much more of a sprinter, trying to just take my mind off it through sheer dislike of the activity.
Yeah. No, you keep running. There doesn't seem to be like a pull to anywhere, but you can picture the location, like that, those sort of like those trees clawing up towards the sky. Possibly a thread that you could pull on there, but something I need to look into later. So that's Joe's morning, and probably the first to wake. Chaz, you technically have footy practice in the AM. As for Seb and Katie, what do all of you guys get up to as the new day takes you? What's the first activity? What are you up to?
I mean, I'll rise, gather up as much of my books and things as I can. I've got a whole list of things that I want to get research done on. So sort of gathering, I'll probably try and make my way to the library if I can, as early as possible.
Sure. So you're going to head to the library.
Yeah.
Are you an early riser?
I don't think I'm a particularly. I'll tell you what. For a university campus, I would be, because everyone likes to sleep in because they've been doing cool things like staying up late and drinking, which are foreign ideas to me. So yes, early riser for a university, but I probably just get up, 7 o'clock average.
Perfect. You gather up some of your things and head towards the library. You probably don't have classes first thing in the morning, so you'll be able to get a bit of research done as you head down towards it. Seb and Chaz.
So Seb sort of rolls out of bed, kind of tousled looking, because why not? Goes over to where I think he keeps like a small stash of like coffee that he can heat and make, and gets a coffee into him before literally anything else happens. Refreshes, ablutions, and then probably sits himself down in his reading chair, pulls out the books from Blaine and starts like thumbing through them, knowing that he's read them cover to cover like multiple times over the last few weeks, but just continuing to go through them for anything that he's missed. Oddly, while Seb is a hedonist and likes the good things in life, he is actually pretty, like, it's similar to Katie. He's early for the campus. Like, you would think he'd sleep in till, like, just before. But there's just something about, like, the way he was raised, that you get up at a certain time of the morning unless there was a party till 4 a.m. the previous night, and then that's fine. But otherwise, you are up, you are respectable, you're put together. Even if you spend the morning lounging, as he will, you still need to look put together for should any callers drop by, should anyone come around, and want your attention early in the morning, you need to look like you're well presented. So that's Seb's morning, and he will continue to do that with his black coffee in hand, second for the day, until morning classes or midday classes, whenever he starts.
Perfect. So you go over some of the books that Blaine had connected. They are all occult in nature, although their themes vary. Some look into like witchcraftery, some look into local folklores and things. And the threads that tie them together are the small handwritten notes in the margins of the pages written by Blaine, which largely try to like collect what could be true mythos information and distinguish it from just rumors and folklore and legend. Studying these has increased your occult skill. and giving you more of an insight into like what's real and then what maybe just rumor. But you can also get an insight into Blaine's psychology, and it's definitely dwindling. And these were when he wrote these. This was probably about a year ago or so when he started collecting these. So by now it's probably just completely gone even further.
I think Seb does also have like a small pocketbook that he is like occasionally scribbling some notes into. He has copied all of the margin notes, and possibly at some point, especially in the one that came from the Orn Library, may have, unless they're written in permanent, may have erased the margin notes that currently exist, and he just has a copy of them.
They vary. Some in pencil, some in pen, prose, whatever he was closest. There is very little care taken for the books, and page has been folded over, things underlined. He is effectively, they're definitely not mint anymore, and the librarians can be freaking pissed if they ever get them back. Well, they're probably fairly pissed because they don't have them. So,
There is probably also another like stack of books, not many, but a handful that Seb has loaned out from the Orn Library currently to like peruse through with connecting things to other stuff. He's researching.
Continuing on the sort of the occult thread.
Continuing on the occult thread and like pretty much like trying to follow the notes that Blaine wrote and be like, all right, to understand this, like what else can I pull from? What other things can I find out? He hasn't had a chance to get anything yet that the Block and Trent were looking into, but that's sort of his next port of call. The other thing is he is relatively careful about what he takes out from the library and what he chooses to study at the library, and those things are separate.
Yep, perfect. Okay, all right, so Seb's studying. Finally, Chaz.
Yeah, I think just to contrast with everyone else this morning, Chaz has subconsciously developed an instinct to the perfect time to wake up and roll out of bed, so he has just enough time to sprint to football practice, as long as he like keeps up an above average pace to arrive just in time. So he'll roll out at just the right time, probably inhale a stale bagel or slice of pizza that he finds somewhere in the room.
Yep. Possibly taken from your roommate's side.
I'm being told I'm getting some audio popping. Last time this happened to me, I had to just quit the meeting and rejoin. Shall I do that?
Oh, do you want to do that quickly? Yeah, hang on. I'll just throw us through a hole.
Yeah,
so
are you still hearing the popping? It's not.
Yes, we are. Just a little bit.
It's not feeling good. All right.
We'll go to the hold and we'll be back very briefly. Thank you. All right, and we're back. Thank you for your patience. We've reconnected, rejuggled. Jackson sounds tremendous.
Tones. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Chaz, you've got footy practice.
Yeah, Chaz has figured out subconsciously the best time to roll out of bed, with just enough time to make it to football practice as long as he sprints. So that's what he'll do. Roll out of bed, find a stale bagel or slice of pizza hidden somewhere in the room, inhale that, and make it to football practice just in time.
Perfect. I imagine it's pretty early, probably similar time to when Joe's out running. And by the time you get to the track, there's already students beginning to gather. The first game of the season is this coming Friday, and it's a big one. It's going to set the trend. And there's always the... it's not really like a rumor because the coach kind of encourages it, but the idea that if the football team has a perfect season, there will be a day off from classes and a sort of like a campus-wide celebration. So the first game always tends to be one of the biggest ones because it sets the precedent. It should also be established that the football team is not particularly good. So normally the first game is a disappointment because it's immediately lost, the record's screwed, and there's no real chance for it to go any further. Is Chaz a particularly good football player?
He would be if he applied himself. I think that's what it is. I think he's more fixated on the status of being a football player and making sure everyone knows he's a football player than he is actually getting good at football. He is naturally athletic, but he doesn't have the discipline. I think that's fair to say.
Perfect. So as you arrive, you're sort of tugging on your gear and getting towards the field. There's some lockers off towards the side where people can get changed, but you've opted to just sort of like sleep in the jersey and then pull on. Yeah. I imagine they wear those what are those water polo looking leather strap helmet things? I think that's period appropriate. And they rule. They look so good. So there's a whole bunch of strapping young men tearing around in those. On the team is also Roderick Block.
Yeah.
who has arrived earlier and is over off in the side chucking a football back and forth with one of the other players. And there's also Coach Buck, who is this large rectangle of a man squeezed into a very small pair of shorts with a shiny whistle, which he blows energetically whenever someone dares to move in a place where he hasn't told them to. He's overseeing drills and things, making sure people run, and just trying to rile everyone up as much as possible for the first game. How does your practice go? All smooth sailing? Do you want to try and
Well, I mean,
make a name for yourself?
Is this the first time I've seen Block? Since
Yeah,
we
since
got
you came back.
Since he died? Since he got taken by the monster in the woods?
Or since you sent him off to go and steal some supplies and he never returned?
Yeah. This is weird, right?
I mean, you'd heard sort of rumors and from the others. Katie said that she'd seen that some of them had come back and things, but this is definitely the first time that you've seen them. The only ones you've seen is Clarissa, and you saw Terrence. Laszlo and Clarissa you saw moving, but this is the first time you've seen Block.
It keeps feeling like it's sort of a standard Miskatonic university life, college, but then every now and again you throw in one of those lines which is like, oh yeah, and this person died just moments ago.
That's what it is.
A little bit went missing.
So I'm going to do my best to strike up, buddy, because Block was one of the boys. He was. On the trip who, we sucked the liquor out and we had a good time. We had a good bonding session around the fire and playing poker. So I think we're tight, but also something weird happened, yo.
Something weird may have happened.
Yeah.
You do see, so Block's chucking the football back and forth, and the coach will direct people to change drills, sprinting across the field or something for a little while. And once that exhausts, everyone gathers on the benches for Buck to give one of his patented "Let's go team" speeches. He tells everyone, this is going to be the strategy. We're going to run this play or something or another. And as this is happening, you've seated yourself along one of the bleachers, quite close to Block. You notice that he's looking down at his fingernails and kind of picking at them a little bit, and doesn't really seem to be paying much attention to the directions from the coach at all. Coach Buck continues to bluster. What do you want to do?
If I can whisper it to him, I'll just nudge him and go, "Hey, Block, glad you made it back."
Oh, hey, all right then, Dedrick.
What happened on the night? You gotta tell me. We sent you to the police station, right? The sheriff's office. We didn't see you again.
Yeah. Sorry I never came back or nothing. The got turned around in the storm, Gibbons and I, and we just kind of wandered for a bit. Eventually found shelter inside one of the local homes and such, and by the time it all broke, y'all were already gone. So sorry we didn't really see you again.
'Cause, that's not what the reporter said. Wendell, he said you got jumped by someone or something. What happened?
Reporter? Oh, you mean that kook?
Wendell.
Don't
Wendell
listen to
in the
him, man. He
sheriff's
doesn't know
office.
what he's talking about. He must have just seen something weird. Nah, we just got turned around in the storm. Spent a while sticking our heads under eaves and trying to keep the rain off us, but it all came good. It was bluster mostly. Nothing real serious.
Well, all right. Glad you made it back in one piece. Let me get a psychology roll on this bullshit.
Make a psychology roll.
Bam. Damn it.
You can... It definitely seems, there's a sense of bullshit around it, but you can't get anything concrete. He seems to be, sticking to the story. At this point, Buck lets out a whistle and goes, "Oi, who the hell are you talking to, Dedrick? Let's go up front now." And tries to call you down. He also will grab Block and send you off to run sprints around the track for daring to talk during his inspirational speech. As you're running, Block seems to just kind of stick his head down and try and outpace you, just trying to run ahead and avoid further conversation.
That simply will not do. I will not give him the satisfaction, sir.
Do you chase him down?
Yeah. Is that a con roll?
Yeah, you want to give me a con roll to check move speed? Yeah, dude, you can keep pace with him. He's fast, but he seems to be out of form. His head's not really in it, and although he tries to just go for like a dead sprint, by the time you round the track for the first time, you're beginning to catch up to him, and you are at pace. If you want to just beat him to show that you are the faster, the superior athlete, you can. Or if you want to keep pace and continue trying to talk to him or possibly push that psychology roll, you could do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it implied. That's what I'm inclined to do. Like, if he's not kind of out of form, that would probably be because he got jumped by a monster a few days ago and dragged screaming into the woods. I'm gonna observe him for a little bit longer by pushing the psychology roll and see if that hypothesis is correct.
Okay, so before you push it, what happens is you like sprint up to him, begin to catch him around the corner. You guys do a full extra lap where you're kind of like keeping pace, huffing, and there's no real time to talk or anything as you're running. Buck, back with the other players, finishes things up and sends people back towards the lockers to hit the showers. And at this point, it's only you and Roderick continuing to running off your punishment. How are you going to push this? Are you going to accuse him of something? Are you going to like refuse to let him out of your sight and follow him wherever he goes? What's your idea?
I guess I'm like kind of goading him. I'm kind of like pushing him. I'm pointing out he slowed down, and he slowed down. Something happened out there in the woods, I reckon, while you were stumbling around. What? You can't keep pace? You're not the same old block I knew.
Hell yeah.
For reaction, like try to like really like get up in his face, kind of aggressively. But like maybe I can play it off as just good old competitive Chaz. But really, I'm trying to push him.
Go ahead and roll a psychology check again.
Hey.
You like turn around, and as you get towards the end of the lap, you've been goading him and pushing him the whole way. He crosses the line and like stands panting with his hands on his knees for a moment. And then when he pushes up, you can see anger behind the eyes. He stalks across towards you and he shoves you back. The coach has already left, and he goes, "Why don't you drop it, Dedrick? All right, this is nothing to do with you. I told you already. We got lost in the storm. Nothing else happened. Just leave it, damn it." And he pushes you again hard back. As this happens, with the successful psychology test, you'll notice two things. One, during football practice, he was way off form. He just didn't seem to have he was one of the star players, and that's kind of lost. Head wasn't in the drills. He wasn't really like planning things, and really he's like the person that the team's kind of built around. Like, he tends to be the star of it, and he's there to give energy to the other players, and that just seemed to be gone. Now you also see he is genuinely pissed at you, and it probably had a bit of that the whole time, just held underneath the surface. He shoves you again, and you step a little bit back towards the lines. "Drop it, Dedrick. Just drop it."
My psychology, do I get the sense that this is someone else in block skin? Because that's the angle I'm angling for here.
That'd be hard to confirm.
You wouldn't go so far.
Hard to confirm.
Go so far. Would Chaz back down at this point? I think not. I think he's going to shove back and go, hey man, thought we were friends. Just trying to look out for you here. Just trying to know what you got up to.
I'm not your damn friend, idiot. Leave it alone. Do you want to give him a fighting brawl?
Yeah, he pushed me first. It's self-defense.
Okay, let's go. You're clear? I will contest it with my own. That's pretty good. Give me one moment to pull up my sheet.
I wonder if I would have seen this if I was running track.
I think you definitely would.
Fields would be closed, but yeah.
Oh no, 100%. You'd probably be using the same circuit. So I guess at this point, so as Chaz pushes Roderick Black, Joe, you're just running. You're finishing a circuit. And you see these two beginning to like push one another in the distance. Do you head over towards it?
Oh, no, not yet. I'll see how this first round plays out.
Yeah, it's keeping tabs. All right, I'm gonna make mine. Yeah, Chaz, what do you do? Do you succeed?
It's like, oh man, succeed. I think I push him harder than I meant to. Like push him hard enough that he goes stumbling away. Yeah. But maybe that's because he's a bit weaker than the block I knew. Like I thought he could take that.
You like heave him, and there's that little like wooden bar that goes around the outside of the track, and he hits that, his knees buckle, and he goes tumbling over it. You land sprawling on the field, and you can see he's embarrassed more than he is really hurt. And as he pulls himself up, he's with the psychologist, you reckon there's actually a chance he's like fighting back tears, and like he's just shocked, and he looks at it and he tries to like gather himself again for a moment, and then he pulls himself up and he goes, just leave it alone, Dedrick, just leave it alone. And he begins to head off towards the lockers.
Okay. Very interesting.
And pretty out of character.
I'll leave it alone.
Okay. At this point, Joe, you're finishing the track. Like you stop to finish your run pretty close to where Dedrick is.
So I wanted to see how that played out. I'll probably jog over at this point. I thought you had to keep your head down or get expelled.
He started it. Hey, you're my witness, right? You saw that.
Yeah.
You started it.
Yeah, he did start
showing
it.
me.
He did start it, but you finished it.
Yeah.
It looked like he was going to cry, though, so I don't reckon he'll tell anyone.
It ain't right. That ain't the block I knew. That ain't the block I knew
Right?
before the trip.
I mean, I've met him a couple of times. I mean, all the sports people kind of know each other, and all the smart people kind of know each other. I don't
Did we tell you
see him
what
as like the
happened?
crying type.
Did we tell you what happened? He's one of the kids that got dragged out by the monster in the wood.
All right. Well, you did tell me what happened.
And now he's
but-
saying that didn't happen. All right. Well,
Did it occur to you
explain
maybe?
that.
Maybe it did. I don't know. Why you folks like pulled up for drinking?
You calling
You don't know what they
calling us
put in that.
liars?
No, I'm saying you hallucinated.
us liars?
No, I'm saying you got trashed on something with jet fuel in it and hallucinated.
No, we didn't. That night we didn't have a drop. We were stone cold sober. And that spooky shit went down regardless of what we had or had not drank.
Yeah, sure I did.
Something's going on. We got to keep a close eye on everyone who was in on that trip except Higgins. Higgins was with us the entire time.
All right.
Do you want to
Just-
find Jeffries or not? The same thing that
I
happened
wanna
to
find
Jeffries happened to
Jeffries.
these kids. And they came back and he didn't. Don't you want to know why that is?
I have to find him. I don't believe in monsters and
Right.
wizards.
Well, unfortunately, that's the only lead you got right now.
I do. Just don't.
Monsters and wizards.
Don't take a swing at anybody else. You'll get kicked out. Besides, he was really off his game today. Does that make you like the best player on the team now?
Well, yeah.
Probably up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't screw that.
happens. I
Stop,
guess it
dude.
kind of does.
Don't stuff that up.
No, but he started it. I mean, you saw.
Yeah,
you saw. He shoved me
started.
first.
He definitely finished it though, and was going to kind of start walking back towards the buildings.
Hey Joe, when Chaz mentioned Jeffrey, do you think there might have been a
Push it down
glimmer or something, or do you think he
Push
might have
it down
reacted?
deep.
Just
Down deep. Push it down deep. Down
You don't
deep.
think about
right
things.
down deep. Just push it right down all the way to the bottom. No, you don't have to think about it.
and we will be okay.
Oh, we're going to be just fine.
All right, awesome. So you guys head
Definitely
off
a
the field.
bit quieter after the Jeffrey mention, though, is kind of introspective for the morning.
Sure, sounds good. Okay. So Katie, you were heading towards the Orne Library. You head towards this large Gothic building, up the stairs and through the doors. There are quite a few. Sorry, where am I going? Quite a few students already inside, even just as soon as they opened up. But it's quieter than it will be for the rest of the day. What are you looking into? Anything in particular?
Yes. So I have a long list. I think that I get down, I set myself up in a little desk in the corner. I'm probably pretty familiar with the Orne Library. I spend a bit of time here. I
Yeah,
stopped
definitely.
to pet the lovely dog.
Napoleon?
Exactly. And then I pull out this little secretive list that I've got folded away on me. Right at the top, and the first thing that I'm going to look into is the oil and gas company that sent us down to try and find that mineral in the first place. I want to know what their interest is in it. I wonder how they knew it was there in the first place, whether they have some kind of ulterior motive, because thinking about it, it was a pretty weird expedition to get approved kind of at all. considering the disaster that happened the previous year. And I think that this mineral is currently going to be my best lead.
So you can look into Federated Oil and Chemical here. There'll probably be some records about it, or when it was founded. More information on how this got more information on how this expedition got approved. You'd probably actually be better off going to either Professor Harold or Professor Learmonth, who organized it, or tracking down Blaine and any of the other administration pieces. That won't really be in the library itself.
Yeah, I think that I'd want to avoid kind of ruffling too many feathers at this stage. So I think we'll start with Federated Oil and Chemical and go from there.
Sounds good. Do you want to give me a library use test?
Absolutely. Start to pour through books, ignoring my studies to instead fail a library use check.
Well, you'll get some information regardless, just because if you go to the equivalent of like Googling it, what you'd get on the very front of the page. So
bunch of ads saying, don't go to Federated Oil and Chemical, go to Boston Chemical.
Come on down.
Yes.
So Federated Oil and Chemical was founded in 1908. It's not a super old company, and it's still in its first generation of leadership. The bloke that founded it, a man called Mr. Abelard, still runs it. It is very successful since it was founded, and it is international, although originally American. It has branches across the world, and it specializes in basically harvesting natural resources, things like coal, oil, things like that, and its fuel is used in shipping and trucking across the country. It is the sort of company that's you probably wouldn't recognize it, but it has its fingers in a lot of things just because it's so integral. And then it'd have deals with shipping and any sort of transport all across the globe. It'd have some sort of influence in. It's not a geological, it's not a science. It doesn't do research so much as it just harvests resources. But doing surveys is not totally out of the norm. That said, you can't see any signs of it having previous associations with Miskatonic University, or not that you can detect with the failed library use.
Very quickly, I'd like to propose something else. I don't know whether you qualify this as a push. It's technically a different skill, so I'd kind of like to approach it from a different angle. You said that they've got kind of locations all around the world, and I assumed that there'd be at least some public record where I can see the offices, see what they own and stuff like that. Could I please use my archaeology skill? I'd like to cross-reference areas that they have setups and try and see if they are in particular kind of picking along a certain thread of going into sites that are related to colonial history, because we know that everybody who has gotten back are very interested in that. Or if they happen to have, of course, they've got the giant one in Egypt, and then another one down on the Nile River in the Amazon, and then a third up at a strange plateau in Tibet or something like that.
Okay, so you can make an archaeology roll. This is only for the one question, basically. It's, are they choosing locations based on historical interest? Where
Yes.
they're setting up, sites and things. Sure, go ahead and make an archaeology roll.
That is a hard success. I can give you 1 point of luck for an extreme if that would get me.
Nope, you're all right. Their major facilities are in Canada, Great Britain, Italy, and then others in then they have multiple in the United States, and then they have smaller operations across the world. With that hard success, no, they seem to be mainly prioritizing on being a successful company where they're setting up branches and things. It's not in particularly interesting locations. That said, the founder, Mr. Abelard, is very well traveled and has gone to a number of interesting locations. It's kind of in an author biography, you'd find where it tries to pitch him as hey, CEOs are people. It would say he's well traveled and he loves hiking and things like that. And he's gone to a number of interesting locations, and some of those ones that you mentioned might be included in that.
Yeah, all right. I reckon a couple of hours have probably passed by this point. So I'm going to be siloing. My next thing to look into is probably going to be Mr. Abelard himself. But before then, I think it's probably time to get to class.
No worries. One more thing though, before you leave, you arrived and quickly went to go and start digging through books, but some of the other students were already here. You will see as you finishing this up, Trent is sequestered away in a corner, and as you wrap this up and finish your research, you will see the doors open, and from like you're in like a raised section looking down on some of the shelves, you'll spot Roderick Block beginning to make his way through some of the shelves and up towards Trent to continue his studies.
They're looking into something, and I got to figure out what that is. Can I see them at any point bring a book back and put it in the shelves?
Yeah. They seem to be taking, well, they take like large chunks of books and work through them over the course of the day. So it won't happen now, but you could blow off a class and try and keep tabs on them.
I'm going to just note what books they're sort of picking up now, especially if I can see a bunch of the new ones come in and, you know, potentially Trent hand over a couple of the books that he's working on. My plan is going to be, I'm going to get one of these books and I'm going to go right over to the librarian and say, I went to pick this up and it was badly damaged. I think the last person using it really trashed the old library books. I'm going to get him kicked out of this library and throw a spanner in their works.
Okay, all right. So that's something you can work on. So for the moment, you can see that they are gathering books. You don't have an idea on what they are, and you have to go to class, but you can come back and keep looking into that later.
No worries.
As you choose. Okay, awesome. All right, so the morning kind of passes. Each of you have some, morning exercises or just research that you want to do, and then you get into classes for the day. Can we get like a snapshot of each of your class life and what things look like? Does anyone want to go first? Let's give us a vibe.
Sure.
Seb?
Seb is a student at the School of Rhetoric, which means he does a lot of English and linguistics and debating-esque type classes. So he probably... I like the idea that at some point he takes descriptive linguistics. I feel like he should also take prescriptive linguistics, which is really just grammar. So possibly that. He also does ancient Greek, which I think is part of his course on rhetoric. So they do a lot of, here is how to present arguments using the rhetoric with logos, pathos, and ethos, of which Seb has the logos and the pathos going. It's just the ethos sometimes gets him in trouble.
I don't know what that means.
Logos is being able to argue well logically. Pathos is being able to argue in a way that makes people feel what you feel. And ethos is of being of good character and standing, so what you say has worth. So Seb is good with the logic, and he's good with the getting people to get emotionally on board with what he's saying. It's just he has a reputation for punching people that disagree with him. So upstanding moral character? Question mark.
Maybe. Awesome.
Yeah, so most of his morning, I would say his first class for the day, is both rhetoric in like ancient Greece, and then quite possibly some kind of prescriptive linguistics for today. I think he only it's not a jam-packed day of classes, just like one or two here or there.
Keep it loose. Perfect. So that's Seb. Someone else?
Chaz is in the School of Business. Because his family reckons they'll help him take over the steel mill one day. He's not convinced. He reckons, my dad and my granddad ran the steel mill just fine for generations without any fancy book learning. So, he shows up, but he just kind of pays attention to the things that interest him and what he thinks he'll actually learn, actually use to run a business. But to be honest, he just wants to be back in the steel mill, kind of pouring the molten steel and operating the heavy machinery. That's what's fun. That's the good part. Yeah, but so he just kind of scrapes along as best as he can, doing all the maths and all the business law stuff. He writes it down when he can be bothered, but for the most part, it's in one ear and out the other, and he's just kind of scraping by from skimming the notes off his classmates. He's really just here to play football.
I would say if he's distracted and uninterested normally, do you think it's taken a step even further now that you're thinking about sort of like Block and the other students and things?
Very much so. He's doing his best. He takes a couple of notes and he flips over to the back of the book and he's like draws little flowcharts of Munster, Woods, Clarissa, Boss. He's just writing down random words and then connecting with random lines and seeing if that helps.
See if it sparks anything.
Was that word cloud thing?
Yeah.
Isn't that something you learned in business school? I've never done any business. But you've got like
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe it's like he's trying to turn this into the business of solving the mystery. Yeah.
Does
And
Chaz
every
have
time
a...
he writes down a name, he just writes, "What does he know?" Wendell, what does he know? Laszlo, what does he know? Clarissa, what does she know? And see if that
Does
helps. I don't know if
Chaz
that inspires
have a-
him.
Do you have a next step? Do you have something that you're going to be looking into? Like, does he plan to go and start shaking people down? Is he concerned that things are going to escalate? What's the... Or is it kind of just like a curiosity at the moment and just like, that's weird?
No, this is like he's found something to distract him from school life, and that's what he's going to focus on. But he doesn't know what to do next. He's waiting for the next meeting with the gang, the next committee meeting to actually know what to do about it.
I'll tell you what, as you try this word cloud process, do you want to just make a straight intelligence roll and just see if this shakes anything loose? I'm going to need at least a half.
I would love to. That's not happening.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, you just keep writing down what does he know, what does she know, circling things. Every now and then you let out a gasp, hoping that will trigger something, and then there's nothing there.
While the professor up the front thinks you're really engaged.
Yeah.
Take a ton of notes.
Writing down notes.
Absolutely keen on trademark law.
Yeah, when the class wraps up, the professor will come over to you and just say, "Hey, Chaz, I know in the past you haven't really like applied yourself. It's great to see you taking notes and taking this semester really seriously. So could I actually get a look at some of your notes and maybe share them with the front of the class later, and if any of the other students are..."
No, because of intellectual property. I don't have to share you anything. You see, that's what intellectual property means. See?
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just glad to see you're applying yourself. Good man.
Yeah, feel free to pass that on to the dean of students. I don't know if you see him in the corridor or whatever.
If it comes up. Perfect. So yeah, you spend the day in classes writing down notes that don't really get you too far, but hey, it's good to it's a foot in the door. Katie or Joe, what's the day look like for you guys?
Tuesdays are Joe's least favorite day because she's got Latin and thermodynamics and kind of her more practical classes are not on today, and so she's her not great mood from the dream and slightly worse mood from Jazz bringing up John Jeffrey has soured into a truly foul mood with thermodynamics, which is basically just math, and she's in physics and she's not good at it, and she knows she's going to have to find somebody to help her study for the exam, and she's just got too much on and too much to do, and all she wants to do is just go for a run or go check out the new roller rink and have a skate and just and roll around for a bit and just do something physical, and she's kind of spiraling a bit into stress and annoyance.
It's sort of a death spiral. Once you get stuck in the headspace, it just keeps going.
Yeah, jittery and anxious and very annoyed.
If you have like a, in between classes, it's like a 20-30 minute break or something, how do you, like, where would you go? What would you do to chill for a little while?
No chill. Back down to the sports, the field, the track field, and is just going to do shuttle runs.
Okay. Yeah, hell yeah.
No chill.
Yeah.
Joe has no chill.
You got to focus. You can't think about other things. So,
yeah. Down deep. Push it down deep. Down deep.
Where it can snap later.
Where it can snap massively and just horrifically later on.
Perfect. So Joe spends the day alternating between exercising and attending fairly dull classes. Lastly, Katie?
I'm off to my classes as well, doing my best to stay attentive. But I, too, like Chaz, am finding myself drifting away. Sitting in my Latin class, I keep writing Clarissa, quid sict, and other Latin phrases.
Is that what does she know in Latin?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Google Translate.
Thank you, Google Translate. Perfect. What kind of classes do? You do maths, right? I can't imagine
Mathematics
there's anything... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, after you.
No, you go.
Mathematics is my speciality. I also have a geology class. I take history. I take archaeology. I take Latin. Generally, kind of the sciences with a crossover to humanities because, scientists had to take humanities at that time because there's a whole kind of classics angle to everything. But my focus, it's possible that I'd even cross over with some of Joe's physics classes.
Yeah.
And probably Latin too.
Yeah.
You guys might have a few in common then. You'd actually probably also have permission to go down into the science annex as well,
Yes,
Katie, given that you do geology and similar classes down there. All right then. So over the course of the day, some of you'll notice a few things. Katie, you have a geology class, and Joe, you'd be down there as well. You will notice that several of the missing or briefly missing students do return and spend most of their time down in the annex in Professor Learmont's study, where they work with him, and you don't really know what's happening behind closed doors. That is Noakes and Clarissa, and you'll also see Laszlo making his way down to join them briefly before returning and heading somewhere else. You sort of see this while you're in one of your classes. Seb, you have a class with your literature class, which is with Professor what's his bloody name? One moment. There it is, Wilmarth, who is the gentleman that was outside Professor Harold's door on the first day back. He is a fairly nervous fellow, a bit jittery, and as he goes through the sort of literature and local stories and things, he's trying to teach you a lot of grammar and very specific detailed information. He keeps on looking out into the hallway as students come and go, and at one point you spot William Noakes, one of the other students, who comes past and lingers at the door for quite a while before heading away again and vanishing in the general direction of outside the building and away.
Just to clarify, did you say Noakes was also hanging out at Learmont's?
Yes.
Okay, so this is...
Yes, he's working with Ferber. Yep. Classes wrap for the day, and as you get towards the evening, what are people up to? What are you guys doing?
Our best.
In general.
Same before. Seb is doing his social circuit. He's continuing to do his just standard networking, catching up with people that he knows. I reckon debate teams like Monday, Wednesday, maybe one other day in the week. So Tuesday is very much just classes and otherwise relaxed time. So yeah, Seb is doing what Seb does best.
Okay.
Having a good time.
All right. Putting everything out of your mind and just kind of following the vibe. All right.
I'd like to hit the library, but if I can crash into the other two first, along one of the hallways or something like that. Perhaps if I can wander, Joe and I would be leaving classes at the same time.
Yeah.
And I know that you're not particularly fond of my theories at this point, but I'll hurry along behind you at one point and say, I'm gonna be looking for more clues this evening. If you want to work together or something.
What do you mean by clues?
Well, I'm looking into Federated Oil and Chemical. They're the people who kind of funded the expedition, and it looks like a lot of the students are really interested in some of the chemicals that we found. I'm trying to figure out something to do with that.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Yeah.
The library? You're going to yeah. Can you eat in the library?
Well, you're not meant to, but I guess if we get a room, we can probably we don't want to get in trouble, and Napoleon will be able to smell it.
I love that dog.
Let's try and find Chaz before we go. But listen, I wanted to ask you a question real quickly. I know what you think of our theories, but what's the logical explanation for what happened?
I don't know. You're a scientist, right? We're scientists. It's what we do. Engineers, scientists. just because there isn't a logical explanation that we are cognizant of yet, doesn't mean there isn't one at all. It just means we don't know it yet.
I suppose that's a good point. We are scientists and, engineers, like you said. There are some fundamental truths that are unprovable. I'll show you that I'm right about my theories.
Yeah, look, if you can, something I can see, touch, punch, that's evidence. Until then, I'm gonna leave wizards at the door if you don't mind.
Sure.
I do have a couple of things I want to look at though, just to check.
Let's find Chaz. I wonder if he'll have a card yet. He doesn't strike me as the type who's signed up for library access.
Oh, he definitely hasn't.
Okay, well, maybe we can sneak him in.
Yeah, you guys can. If you're looking for Chaz, you can quickly find him. I imagine somewhere on the quad, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, he's gone for a run to see if that will clear his head and provide some inspiration for what to do, but it has not.
Just kind of trying pushing around.
As we get up, I presume we find you at the track running around, and in an attempt to set up another session obligatory informal competition between Chaz and Joe, I'll say, "Wow, he's fast. I bet I'd never be able to run that fast. I don't know anyone who could."
You're gonna look down. She's gonna look down at Katie. No, you probably couldn't.
Once you're around, Chaz, I'll explain that we want to head to the library and see if you're keen in doing an evening of research with us.
Research? What kind of research?
Well, I mean, we're going to start looking into things. I've got some leads, and it doesn't all have to be, reading. The other one is down into the science annex, stuff like that.
Yeah? What do they got down there?
Well, they've got all those locked areas, and they keep going into Professor Leopold's Leopold, right? Yeah, it's Leomond, sorry. Professor Leomond's office.
Yeah, if it's locked, there's something they're trying to hide. That's what I reckon.
There's a good chance they're still down there working late. If we can try and figure out what's going on there. The other question is, how involved is Professor Leomond? I'm kind of, I'm thinking whatever we can do to try and throw a spanner in their works, but then I'll keep glancing across at Joe, because I know that Joe doesn't necessarily want to pursue the angle of trying to mess around with these students, because there's no inherent connection to Joe's mind. And I said, but we also want to start figuring things out,
Yeah. Hey, it's kind of weird question. I've never been to Cobb's Corner. You guys have been to Cobb's Corner. Is there a spot that kind of, and I'm going to kind of describe the forest part from my dream, any kind of landmarks or kind of distinctive features about the landscape from my dream? I'm kind of describe it in as much detail as I can.
Do any of the three of you have natural world or navigate?
I succeeded that random natural world check last time. I didn't actually succeed the advancement, but based on the fact that I succeeded it last time, will you allow me to roll?
Oh yeah, anyone can roll that. That's totally fine. I was just thinking if any of you are particularly skilled out.
Sorry, last track. We got Seb on board as well.
Seb's doing social stuff.
Seb, you can easily be found. So up to you guys.
That is entirely up to the party whether they choose to go and find Seb.
Yeah, no, we got to get all the heads together. See, Seb. I
would like to find Seb before we do this. I would like to have somebody in the room who may not believe in wizards. That would make me feel a lot better.
Yeah, we got to get the gang together. We got to find Seb.
Well, we'll go get Seb.
There'd be like a nearby cafe or something, and as you begin to track down Seb, you spot them in the distance heading off in towards one of these cafes with someone else. And when you all head inside, there's a lot of students gathering in different booths. There's a small side section where the three of you can head towards and grab the table, and then Seb's just wrapping up a conversation with someone. They're sort of saying goodbye, and you guys can convene as you wish.
Lovely to see you, as always. Pleasure.
Tell us about this dream again. You in Cobb's Corners, you reckon?
I probably wouldn't have said it was a dream. I'd probably just describe the location.
You been to Cobb's Corners?
No, I haven't. It's just a
I'll try and clue Seb in on what's happening and say, we're researching.
Because if you slid in at a table and Seb is just saying goodbye, you've literally started this conversation, and he's like turned around to be like, "Oh, it's you, Chocolate Fox. Hi."
Yeah. Surprise.
Like arm over the back. Oh,
Yeah.
hello.
So Joel's on board now. Joel's going to help us. She's she's
look,
committed.
on board is a stretch,
I'm
but
delighted to hear that, Miss Johnson.
We're gonna spend the evening going through some stuff. We've got some leads, so I don't know if you wanna try and put your head with ours.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I have an appointment this evening.
Oh, okay. Well,
Do you need something specifically?
Well, I mean, tell him about the forest again. Let's
wanted
all have
to-
a roll.
I just wanted to know if, and I've never been to Cobb's Corner, I just wanted to know if this sounds like a location in Cobb's Corner. And describe the forest from the dream with any kind of detail that I can remember that might be idiosyncratic. Or
Yeah. So you describe these like tall skeletal trees. You describe the glade and the like the moon hitting it. You can all make. Do you want to each give me a natural world roll? And there'll even without that, there'll be some information I can share
Would
with you.
you accept a hard intelligence, like to remember the area?
Yeah, sure. If you're specifically trying to recall Cobb's Corners in the area, yeah, not even hard.
Yeah.
Just a straight one.
Not
could
even
be good.
hard? Outstanding.
Yeah.
I'll
Straight
quickly.
intelligence stuff.
What I want to do is I want to, as soon as this dream's been said, I want to quickly push forward my notebook and flip to the point in my notebook where I recorded the dream of the child that I met at the diner inside Cobb's Corners, who described a very, very similar thing, and say, there are other people who have had similar thoughts. So you look, it's this was written, and I dated it. This was written weeks ago. People talking about these kind of glades, these trees. This kid was drawing it.
So you flip that open and begin to pick through it. Chaz and Seb try and recall. These trees are similar in style as those in Cobb's Corners, but it does not appear be an even match. One thing you will note is that last night was a full moon, and a full moon was also in Josephine's dream. So if things are looking elsewhere, the timeline does line up. That said, it does not appear to be an exact match for Cobb's Corners.
is just speaking it kind of, I don't know, dig up any memories or any visual kind of cues for something around here?
As you look at it and look outside, the trees are beginning to turn orange in fall, and some of them are beginning to lose their leaves. Looking at one of them as the branches begin to empty, there's a similarity. You suspect this might be a little closer to home than over in Vermont. It could be, somewhere around Arkham.
Kind of trail off. It just didn't seem like it was somewhere that I
Well,
That ain't right.
we've got a lot of leads then, but we should figure out if there's anything that Seb can be looking into, or talking to. Maybe some kind of angle. Maybe learning about exactly what's going on with the students. I don't know. Has anyone seen Blaine recently?
No, actually.
No, which is good for him.
I'd be shocked if he shows his face around here again.
Maybe figuring out what Blaine's up to could be useful. I mean, you run in some of the same circles, right, Seb? Is it possible that you could get an angle on what Blaine's doing?
Well, I already know that he has not been present for some of the usual activities, the circles he usually runs in, which I also frequent at times. He seems to have been absent from many of their social engagements of late, so I have been asking around where it's appropriate. Why do you think I spend time around people because I enjoy spending time around people, but it's also a useful way for gathering information, rumors, that kind of thing.
The other thing of note of that is Blaine is also his accommodations would be inside the fraternity. And so in theory, he hasn't been around those either. So there's a chance he's got some nonsense in there.
Regardless, I had meant to have a conversation with my uncle at some point over the course of this week. Hopefully, I was going to see if he was around this evening. I have some leads I want to pull.
Okay, well, is there anything we can look at to help your work?
Just kind of look at Katie. No, Miss Wilkes. My work is of a social kind.
Okay.
Yeah, best to leave us out of it then.
Yeah.
You're all incredibly charming, do not get me wrong.
Are we though?
Yes.
Of course. Exceptionally charming in your own unique ways.
I could charm the pants off anyone you put in front of me.
Wouldn't recommend doing that on the regular. That is a very quick way to get expelled.
Also, it's hazing. We don't talk about pants coming off.
Yeah, all
I don't
right.
think Eagle Rock has been penned yet, but let's put that one in the back burner.
All right. So Seb, you're gonna talk to who you can, try to track down Blaine, right? Now, what about this nonsense with the rock, with the geology department? I mean, as far as I can see, Katie was the one who found the rock, and you know they're kind of shutting her out here, right? Why don't they want to talk to her? She's the one who found the rock. She's the one who, should be getting all the credit. But
Yeah, that's a good point,
they don't
actually.
even want to talk to her.
I think it's because
People who are looking into it, other folks who went
Yeah.
missing and died.
that's
Yeah.
Deb,
Yeah, it's not fair.
know that they died, for goodness sake.
Katie saw what happened to Clarissa.
Yeah, but it's still not
What
fair,
happened
right?
Block and Noakes, they got torn apart by monsters in the woods.
No, they did not, Chaz.
Agree to
Block
disagree.
and
Thank you.
Gibbons went to the sheriff's office and then didn't return. The only person's word we have is the inane reporter, of whom, let's be honest now, is not exactly trustworthy.
and what I saw. I guess I was just wrong. Just crazy.
You drank some bad. I reckon you drank some bad hooch.
Anyway, I think that the rock is a lead. If they're down there, then there's not much we can do. I don't think we can get into the room or anything. But maybe Chaz or Joe, the two of you could, I don't know, get a look inside. I feel like I'm best spent in the library, but I can maybe try and lurk around down there. At least I've got a reason to be down there.
Talking of the library, Miss Wilkes, Mr. Trent has been spending a lot of time in there. Perhaps you'll see him.
Yeah, he was there this morning. You saw him at another point as well?
Oh yes, him and Block yesterday afternoon were spending some time looking through, what was it again? History of the region, records between the early 20s, predominantly local, occult history for the region, and then surprisingly trying to hide the fact that they were researching early colonial history.
Huh.
Also, they seemed a little out of sorts. I'm sure that's just, beginning school nerves, but perhaps keep an eye out.
That's good to know.
Chaz ran into Block this morning.
Oh,
He
really?
seemed
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
nearly
I
made
think
him
that's
cry.
Well, he started it, right? He started pushing me around. I just want to know what happened on the night, and he got all cagey, like he didn't want to talk about it. Can't imagine why. Probably because he's lying. But not only
said-
that, he's not the same Block I knew. I'll tell you that for free. He was getting all puffed out in the track. He wasn't throwing the pigskin as hard as he used to. I don't know.
One
who it
little
was,
shove and he
but
went
one
down.
Block.
I
It's true.
mean,
It's true.
if they got lost in the storm, there's a solid chance they are recovering from some kind of, flu or something. You don't tend to get drenched through, and I don't know. It just sounds like he has a cold.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
All I'm saying is there's perfectly rational explanations for everything.
That I agree with.
All right. Well, regardless of our theories here, obviously, me and Katie have different ideas to the two of you, and that's okay. But we're all committed to getting the truth here, right? We can at least agree on that.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna find John.
All right. So it sounds like I said you're gonna track down Blaine, see what he's got up to. Me and Joe here are gonna try to break into the geology, and Katie, you want to hit the book?
Are we though? I really don't want to break in anyway. I mean,
BNA.
Otherwise, I can head down there with Chaz if you want to head to the books, Joe.
Yeah? Hold on one moment.
don't
Forgive me.
really
Chad, you're studying
wanna-
business, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hey,
But I
So
can,
you wouldn't have access.
you're not gonna be able to get down there, dude. We tried that.
I can talk my way in. Now I know what I'm up against. I can formulate a plan to break through their defenses.
Linguistically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright. Just to be clear, my interest in this whole affair is to make sure that Blaine is never put in charge of anything ever again, and to make a case for the fact that whatever happened in Cobb's Corners has absolutely nothing to do with us and absolutely everything to do with Blaine and whomever decided to set this up. Once that's done and dusted, I really couldn't care less.
Your empathy astounds me.
Well, at least
you
we've all
know
got a direction to
reason
move in.
All right. I like it.
Okay.
I mean, so Joe, you think we could get in there tonight?
I think I can get in there tonight. I don't think you can get in there ever.
Well, you're gonna get me in, right? I mean, you're gonna need some muscle. What if they're waiting down there? What if they're having some midnight, spooky meeting, and shit goes down? You're gonna want some backup. That guard's not gonna be there after closing time, surely.
I don't know. I'm not
Security
really done after hours study. It's not really my thing.
All right. Well, let's see, case the joints. Let's see what we find.
Campus security is predominantly 24/7. I mean, if you're going to go and try and break into engineering and chemistry laboratories, do be sure that they keep most of the dangerous chemicals under lock and key, and if not under lock and key, then under close watch.
Can we forge a note from my professor?
That guard at the front wouldn't be posted in front of the lifts, but the whole building would be locked, and only students that have a reason to be inside would be admitted. And then there are general campus security that patrol the whole area. But if you had a note from a professor or a professor to let you in after dark, you'd be allowed inside.
Has anyone got a deft hand? None of my professors like me enough to give me a note for anything.
Does deft mean strong?
No.
Oh, then no.
Maybe I could. I'll tell you what. Maybe I could ask one of the security guards to escort me to the library because I'm nervous walking around campus in the dark, and then the two of you can dart inside while that happens.
Yeah, all right.
I'll get
That's a
you
good one.
in the door, and then if you get notes, anything that I can read, anything that I can look at, geology stuff, information, bring it to me and I can decipher it. But I'll spend the evening in the library then.
Okay.
Well, you could always double back and join us because you've got a reason to be down there too.
Yeah.
A friendly reminder, should you get caught, you will be expelled.
But they will be. Clean record. Hey,
For now.
for now. I got wiggle room.
So the way we'll kind of divvy this is it's getting into evening. You've got a bit of time, and then it would be getting into night. If you want to do anything super illicit, you can do it then. What is everyone doing for the evening? What's the division? Where are people going? While there's still sun out, there are still students moving around, things like that.
Dinner.
Dinner? Food. You guys could have eaten as well while you're at the
Is
cafe. You can always get
fuel.
more. Is there anything else anyone
Yes.
wants to be doing?
No, Seb will excuse himself from the table once the bulk of the conversation is done. And hopefully has thought well enough ahead to try and get in touch with his uncle, set up an appointment to speak to him, and that's where he's headed off, just to speak to his uncle. I said before that I wanted to pull some leads on Federated Oil and Chemical, and also who the fuck on the ethics committee approved this bloody sham of a, well, both of the expeditions, all three of them, because, like, curiosity. And then, depending on how long that takes, swing by the fraternity and see if I can find any more information about the whereabouts of Blaine.
Sure. So as this conversation wraps up, you're checking your watch because you have a meeting with your uncle shortly. You're going to meet him inside the administration building, and he's going to talk to you. And then following that, depending on time, you can head over towards the old Delta Phi and see if you can ask around there. So Seb heads back towards the admin building. Chaz, Katie, Joe, what's the plan?
I mean, should we go right ahead? I'll try to get you in the door.
Yeah, and maybe circle back around and meet us.
Yep.
Well, currently, if your idea is to be like, oh, it's late, I don't feel comfortable walking.
It's not that late?
It's like afternoon.
Not that
It's like
late yet?
evening at this
Okay.
point. Yeah, it's
Well,
still
we're gonna have
daytime.
to
This
do
is
that way
students
later.
about.
Okay.
We're gonna have to do that much later.
Well, do we want to head to the library first then, and then we can all head across?
Yeah, right.
All right. We'll spend a couple of hours in the library before we head over.
I'm
the-
very distracted by any kind of like trees and greenery, and I'm kind of, if there's any wooded patches or parks that have lots of trees, and every time I see them, and as it gets darker, I get kind of more distracted, and my focus is definitely on the trees and the moonlight and the trying to rack my brain about where I may have seen a glade like that around here.
Yeah,
Just general distraction.
Nothing seems to twig for it being inside Arkham, but when you head to the library, you can try and ask for a map or something, or some like photos of the local area and see if you can
Yeah,
find
that's
something that
probably what I'm
twigs.
gonna do.
Awesome. Art.
I have the books that Blaine was carrying around, but I understand there was also a map, and I don't remember whether we took that, and if so, would I have that map with the books?
It was a map of Cobb's Corners and that region. I don't think you took that with you. I'm not gonna be correct. I think that was left behind because that was kind of like that was just for planning the region. But
it
you
did just have those like big X's on it, which would have been of interest, but it doesn't matter. I don't mind one way or the other.
I think we took it from the safe because I remember referencing it when I was out in the rain.
It wasn't in the safe. It was just in his room.
Okay.
Oh, but if you're referencing if you established that you had it, that's it actually make a luck roll.
Who knows?
You make it. You're the one trying to hold on to it. And I think no worries. You could have folded that up, and it's a map of Cobb's Corners and Vermont, and there's a couple of marks over sections of the forest, which seem to imply they're crossed out. You can imply whatever you want.
I will make a note that I have it and potentially find some way to hand it over to the three of them for assistance with their investigations about where the fuck this place might be.
Awesome. Okay, so Chaz, Joe, and Katie head towards the library, and Seb, you go across the lawn and towards the administration building. Inside, it is still hectic, students trying to organize things, but it's beginning to dial down and it returns to the normalcy of school life. Miski's cage has been given another padlock on it, and you can see a couple of marks on the grass where some little bastard had a go at trying to get in. The badger seems, for the most part, complacent and completely obtuse to the what's going on around it. You head up the stairs and towards your uncle's office.
Is it Ruth Ellen Whitby? Is that the person who runs this place?
Who runs the whole thing?
I will say good evening to Miss Whitby and make a remark at how Miski looks well taken care of and quite secure this evening.
As you go through, she'll say, good evening to you, Mr. McCarthy. Yes, we take great pride in our mascot's security, and I assure you there will be no foul play this year. And from around the corner, a couple of students scurry away back towards the doors. She seems to be keeping this place under lock and key. There would also be a couple of local security, or security just nearby, keeping tabs.
If we're passing by Miski, Chaz would try to
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were all going together.
This is the administration
Oh, I'm
building.
sorry.
You can head
This is
by
Seb.
if you want to
I'm
tag
sorry.
on.
I got lost. I thought, yes, Seb went on his own. I got lost. Sorry.
I mean, you can trail if you want, but I think
happy
we
to
would have
hang
to
out.
what do you
No,
want?
no. Dave, you can edit this out. Thanks.
I'm gonna make this the opening clip. You head up the stairs towards your uncle's office. He has a section on the top floor, and the door is slightly open. And when you knock on it, you hear from inside, "Come in."
Evening, Uncle.
Inside, it's Oswald McCarthy, right?
I didn't specify it was McCarthy, but sure, it can be on my father's side.
Yeah, that tracks, and it's one of the ones that has the names on the building, so they're very big on titles and things, I think. Yeah, he's what's his position? I know he's on the board. What is he beyond that?
He's on like he's one of the people on the ethics committee, and then he's also just part of the like administrative board for the university. I'm gonna say he's got like a PhD in something, so he is like doctor at least. He's not a teaching he's not a professor, but he is like an academic at the university as well, so he has his own research portfolio. I'm gonna say, I don't know, pick something. I don't care, whatever you want him on.
Awesome.
I don't
I
mind.
think let's put him in the sort of the businessy field. I think suits the McCarthy name.
Well,
and
most of the McCarthys are either like doctors or politicians. Take your pick.
there you go.
Yeah.
It'll be some sort of like, the political, I don't know, the businessy nonsense on that side of the field. You can see he has all his diplomas up on the wall. He taught here for a short period and then basically graduated out into administration side, which he's run fairly effectively for his tenure as for his time on the board, which has probably been for several years, and he's a very very competent gentleman. He's got a balding head and sort of hair that goes around the side, and he dresses in a large black suit. On the desk in front of him, you can see papers sprawled around, and his secretary, as she steps up, when you sort of come in, she steps in and she like taps her watch and she says, "Remember, 15 minutes, Oswald, you have another meeting." And he goes, it's fine. I always make time to see my nephew, as long as he's behaving. Sebastian, take a seat.
Of course, Uncle. Sebastian has a like friendly and warm demeanor, but also a respectful one. This is one of the senior gentlemen in the family. They get on well enough, but there is measured respect.
He steps up and he closes the door once you sit down, and he sort of paces around, very much the leader in the room. And he puts a hand on the chair from behind you and says, "You've been behaving yourself then?
Of course, Uncle.
Keeping out of trouble?
As much as is possible at this university, yes, Uncle.
You staying away from that hooligan friend of yours?"
Uncle, I don't have any friends. I have acquaintances.
Very good. Well, as long as things are all above board and you're keeping an eye to your studies, then I'm sure this will all blow over. You understand, Sebastian, I really had to stick my neck out for you here. I had to pull strings, call in favors, and I'm vulnerable like this. I don't like to be vulnerable.
Uncle. I understand, Uncle, and I appreciate it. I understand.
Well, there's no need to get sappy. As long as we're clear. He sits down again and goes, "What can I do for you?"
I was wondering if you had looked into the requests I asked you about, the connection between Federated Oil and Chemical and the expeditions. It just strikes me as odd that they have funded 2.5 expeditions and none of them have gone particularly well for various reasons.
Can you give me a credit rating test?
50-50 shot.
Okay. You can burn luck. You'll get something
I have luck
regardless.
to burn.
Okay.
So sure, I do not get to increase my credit rating by succeeding, so sure, have 14 points of luck.
Okay.
That will take me down to probably still pretty fucking high.
I reckon it is.
67 luck is now what I have.
Yeah. He says, "Yes, Sebastian, I got your request, and pulled the files on the previous expeditions, understand Miskatonic University has a long and storied history with expeditions. It's something that's helped us made a name for ourselves. We excel at them, and we push boundaries. You'll know that only recently we launched an expedition to Antarctica. Very promising, and remains to be seen what's found, but if all goes well, this will really put our name on the map, having a flag on the bottom of the world. Now, this most recent expedition out to Vermont, you'll know, was organized by Professor Roger Harold at first, and for additional funding, Professor Learmonth was attached to join the expedition, to co-lead it, with a geology wing of students. We are a big fan of what is the word for different classes? Anyway, working together. Interdisciplinary expeditions. It helps to widen things and let students socialize with people outside of their chosen discipline. Professor Learmonth's contacts are the ones that found Federated Oil and Chemical, and when they came online, when they joined the expedition, they agreed to fund it in its entirety, which allowed us to send the whole thing ahead and made it a lot easier to approve from the board's perspective. For the second expedition, Professor Roger Harold himself was loath to agree to return, especially given the unfortunate circumstances with Mr. Patterson, Devine, and Jeffrey. But from what I can see here, Robert Blaine submitted a personal request to Professor Harold that it go ahead, and agreed to oversee the expedition himself. Appears they spoke quite closely about it and ultimately agreed to return. From the school's perspective, it was unfortunate what happened last time, but things happen, unfortunately, and we can't stop progress just because he kind of catches himself. We have to keep looking forward. Now, Federated Oil and Chemical attached themselves again to the second expedition, organized by Professor Learmonth, who has friends there, and they agreed to fund the expedition in its entirety once more. So, from the board's perspective, things went ahead. That said, given your acquaintances' less than exemplary actions during the most recent expedition, there will certainly be a period before Professor Harold is leading anything anytime soon. That said, he has approached myself and other members of the board, and he has explained his position and apologized for how things went down. He's taking ownership of it, at least.
So Federated Oil and Gas only became involved because Professor Learmonth had connections with them already and requested, thought that there would be a useful partnership.
They came in through him, that's right.
Was there anything in the application about looking for specific kind of minerals, or was it more just a general geological survey?
No, they were surveying the region to just take broad samples and see what they could find. The studies were, for the most part, repeated year after year, or between the two expeditions.
And
if you have more questions about this, I'd point you towards Professor Learmonth.
Of course. Thank you, Uncle. Just one more thing I would like to understand. From the board's perspective, how is it appropriate that Blaine, a student, was the one who essentially submitted the request for the second expedition? I mean, I know Professor Harold put his name against it, but essentially it was a student-led expedition. And was there any board approval required for the intermediary trip that the students took back to Cobb's Corners?
There wasn't. Once the professor gets approval for it, it's his to assign and allow people to return. As for Mr. Blaine's leading, he did not lead the expedition. Professor Harold did. Now, as I understand it, Mr. Harold was waylaid and decided in his judgment that Mr. Blaine would be put in charge for a short period before he made his way down to Cobb's Corners. That has since proven to be a mistake, and Mr. Blaine, when he shows himself, will be punished severely. I understand the Dean of Students has put out a request for him to attend, which has not yet been met. Mr. Blaine will not be attending Miskatonic University for very much longer.
That doesn't surprise me. Well, thank you, Uncle. This is most helpful. I appreciate it.
Think nothing of it, Sebastian. Well
I
then.
won't keep you from your next appointment. I know you're a busy man. Have a wonderful evening, Uncle.
You as well, and keep your head down, Sebastian. No trouble.
None whatsoever.
You are excused. You head out, and overall the meeting was fairly brief. You can begin to make your way across campus towards the Delta Phi fraternity, if you please. You will go via the Orn Library if you want to stop in and say good day to any of the others.
I will stop in.
Okay. Well, in that case, I will say that you're heading there, and we'll go to them, and you might drop in at some point. Okay. So for the four of you, you head up towards the Orn Library. This late in the day, it's fairly busy with students beginning to work on papers and apply themselves to their courses. Inside, the librarians are very keen, making sure that people don't get into trouble. And you can see on the upper level, you will quickly find in the same place they had been previously, Roderick Block, Jason Trent, and leaning against the window not far from them is Terrence Laszlo. Books can be checked out and studied inside here. What do you want to do?
I'm going to look for books of kind of photographs of the region.
Sure.
I'm not
Start
much of a
studying that.
studier. Maps
No
are
worries.
not. Maps are probably not the first thought.
Yep, you begin to check out a couple of books and you can gather them. Are you guys planning to get like a private room, or do you want to set up nearby the others that you know are here? Where do you want to study? You muted, Jim.
Apologies. I think we'll get a private room so the others can snack.
Okay.
I think would
right.
have picked up something from the dining hall on the way, and like
Smuggled it in.
going up the library steps is just like,
Perfect.
I would hesitate. I'd like make some eyes at Laszlo. Thinking about going up and fronting him, but if the cooler heads prevail, then I'll be dragged away.
I think just one assault per day, Jess.
Yeah. All right.
Chaz and Katie, then, what are you looking into? Do you want to check out some books?
I mean, the thing I'd like to look into is Abelbard, the head of Federated Oil and Chemical.
Okay. Yeah, if he's published a biography or something, it might be here, but otherwise it's a pretty modern, like, this is recent history, his company. Most of the information you piece together have been from like local records and things. You can be checking for newspapers to see if there's any articles published about him. But like unless he's published a book on himself, you know, there probably won't be too much here.
That's a good
You
point.
can check for newspaper articles, you could look, yeah.
You know what? I think, look, we've got an obvious lead in front of us then. We've got this, they're looking into colonial history. And that's what seems to be the point of where everyone is being. I'm going to try and figure out what they are interested in. And Chaz, if you can help me just, I mean, I think it probably ends up with me being like, you know, like find a book about this, find a book about this, find a book about this. But I'd like to cross-reference the information that we have about Cobb's Corners, you know, so we have this kind of vague understanding that there was some kind of, you know, great war in its history, and then there was this we have the pictograms and the photograph of this strange thing, so presumably there is some flying thing that has been around Cobb's Corners for a long time, and I want to figure out what that is, and I'm presuming that it made itself known, or there was some kind of incident involving it in early colonial history, and that is the angle I'll approach from.
Perfect. Chaz?
And I'll help.
Perfect. Okay. So you guys get a room and begin to gather books and things. Joe, you pretty quickly gather a couple of books on the local region. There's photographs of different trees and things, and you're piecing those together with a couple of maps and just generally beginning to progress. You will quickly find that there are trees of the style that you saw in the forests around Massachusetts, and they do seem to be similar. You spot several large forests which could, you know, possibly line up all throughout, you know, some about like, you know, only a few hours away from Arkham, but it's a pretty wide list, and you're beginning to sort of narrow things down as best you can. Katie, as you head up and get like a list. You speak with one of the librarians and you say, hey, we're looking in for this sort of history. She gives you a suggestion of 3 books to check out. When you look for them on the shelves, all 3 have already been withdrawn and are not available.
Can I go and ask the librarian who's withdrawn them and who, because I might speak to them about it?
She says if they're not on the shelves presently, then someone in the library is looking into them. She checks. None of them have been checked out. They are just being currently read then.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to get those books, which means we need to get those folks kicked out in some way. Which means I think it's time to implement my plan from before. Seb told us some of the books that they were looking at. Are they currently not looking at any of those books? I'll go and track down each of those individual ones.
Yeah, it will take you a little while because you're doing it off memory, but make a library use roll, actually.
Okay.
And Chaz, are you helping, or...?
I'm helping. Well, I mean, if it's
I really need the help.
We need to get someone kicked out.
You need the help.
I need the help.
I help.
Okay, all right.
Which
roll with a bonus dice.
means that I maybe don't fumble. Of course, I still could.
Oh.
Hard success.
Oh.
Okay, that's good.
Nice.
You move between the rows of books, and after a little while, we'll find one of the tomes which was mentioned by Seb. It's probably the colonial history one that Jason Trent was reading. You pull it out.
Right. In which case, so this could end really badly. I'm going to glance left and right and make sure I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then flip open the book, cross myself because I don't like doing this, and tear a large section of it. And then I plan to go up to the counter and be like, listen, I found this and it looks like it's been damaged. Do you know anyone who was looking at this book last? It appears that something real bad has happened.
Okay. Can you make I'm probably gonna need a stealth roll or a sleight of hand or something to get out of the way. You can do it with a bonus dice, because you can try and time it. But this is you defacing library property inside here, and they're fairly touchy about that.
What have we done to our poor Katie?
I'll try a stealth check. That is a success, and with a bonus die, it is still a success.
Yeah, you find a corner where no one's really looking, and you lean in and you tear out one of the pages, fold it over, and head back towards the librarian. She's talking to someone else when you first approach, but the other student moves out of the way, and she looks up and she says, "How can I help you?"
I'm so sorry. I just realized that there's some of the books that you mentioned. Looks like there's been some damage done, and I just I probably have been I've been around the library a fair bit, so I always try to put books back where they are, and I thought I'd let you know because you'll want to know that there's been some damaged books.
You pass it over and she unfurls it, and you can see her go, "Where did you find this?"
It was in, and I give the location of that book. So I presume whoever was reading it last must have, accidentally torn it or something.
She withdraws her finger and snaps it shut, and then she looks up at you. She says, "Miss Wilkes, where did you find this?"
In the shelves over there.
Can you make a fast talk check, please?
Absolutely.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no.
13 points? You got 13 points? You got 13
So
points.
we'll luck it down for a successful fast.
Hey.
Thank you for bringing this to my attention. She pulls it back, and then she will take it behind to a rear office and stow it, and then she talks to one of the other attendants who confirms something. You can see them look up at the section where some of the other students are sequestered away, and one of the orderlies assistants begins to head up towards them. What are the 4 of you doing? Are you going to follow along, or are you going to stay removed?
I'd stay.
Is this my cue to show up?
Oh yeah, definitely. At this point, you come in past the doors, and you'll stand next to Katie as you see one of the assistants heading upstairs towards the others.
Folks?
I've done something very bad.
Should have needed a sanity roll, actually.
Yeah, I feel like art require a sanity roll at this point. You can't do that to books.
I think I try to get. I'm trying to do the stealth properly, so I stay as well removed as I can.
Okay. Chaz, you're probably nearby if you want to keep a tab.
I'm just watching. I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm just strike. If someone tells me to strike something, I'll strike it.
All right. You see the assistant head up the stairs, and as she approaches the three of them, Terrence Laszlo steps forward to intercept. They say something under their breath back and forth, and then the assistant steps over and will speak to Jason Trent. At this point, Chaz, you're close enough that you can hear Trent stand up and go, "Fine. Bloody hell, I didn't even know. I didn't do this. I swear. This wasn't me. I was really organised with everything, and we put it back as well as we found it." The assistant goes, "Quiet, Mr. Trent. Come with me, and we'll talk about this in our offices." And he has stepped up and begin to escort it out of the way. Laszlo looks to block, and levels a finger at him and goes, "Stay down, Roderick. Keep reading. I'll be back." And he stalks around after a good minute or two behind Trent and the assistant, who are heading down towards offices in the rear of the a torn book. They head up and they head towards Dr. Henry Armitage, who is the head of the director of the Orne Library, and towards his office. The assistant knocks on the door, and when it opens, you see Dr. Armitage is a balding man with those sort of half moon spectacles. He is very well dressed. He has a clean kept beard. He looks sort of tired and authoritative, I think, is the flavor of him. And he looks down over his glasses at Trent, listens to the assistant who explains the situation, and then he steps aside to allow the two to enter. As he looks over, he assesses the situation and steps back inside and shuts the door. At this point, Chaz, you see Laszlo get up and begin to follow after them.
Oh, got him.
Our line of vision?
No, from the bottom of the stairs, you wouldn't have seen them. They would have gone up
we didn't go up.
away. Katie was staying well out of the way. You could have approached.
You might have gone up though. I'm just staying. I don't want to get caught.
And now what? Now what do we do? We just swoop in. We sprint in. We grab the books. That's what we're doing.
If I can go up and see this, I would like to, and within the eye line of both Chaz and Joe, just step in front of Laszlo.
Ooh.
Okay. You head up the stairs and stepping in front of Laszlo, who's beginning to walk forward. Chaz, you're nearby. It's kind of like he's coming down one of the rows of books, and you step in front, so he can't really pass that way. Chaz, are you on the other side, just behind him?
Yeah, block him in.
Okay.
He's surrounded.
Robert, block him in. Sorry.
He looks up and he sees you, Seb, first, and he goes, "Step out of my way, please, Mr. McCarthy."
Good evening, Weasel. It's delightful to see you, as always.
He sighs, whirls around, and begins to walk backwards when Chaz steps out in the way.
I'm gonna go get those books.
Okay, Joe at this point steps out of the
Strong.
side and begins to head over. Block's going to be there, so you'll have to talk to him first, but we'll come to that. Laszlo looks between you, and when he steps back, Seb's advanced down the line a little bit, and he's kind of hemmed in. He looks between both of you, goes, "This is no place for a scene, gentlemen."
There's only going to be a scene if you make one, Laszlo.
We don't want a scene, do we, Laszlo?
I understand you two are on thin ice. It won't take much to
Yeah.
get you expelled.
Yeah, out there we're on thin ice, but in here, it's you, my friend. Between the two of us, ice is looking very thin underneath your boots.
Mr.
Thin ice.
Dedrick, I understand that your family had to take out a loan to pay for your legal fees. Poor Papa's steel mills looking real flimsy. And here you are, accusing me. They sacrificed so much for you, Chazzy, so that you could go to this school and be useless here instead of useless at home. Do you really want to put that to risk?
Oh, Seb better say something real quick.
He
is
steps forward and
genuine.
he's like pushing back his wet hair. He does seem less weasel confident and more confident weasel.
I will just like say with a very calm, pleasant tone, that is a very interesting piece of information that is not being circulated around the university, Laszlo. That is very odd that you should know that. Where on
Funny
earth
that,
did you
isn't it,
find that
McCarthy?
information? Not particularly. If I was something carrying around in the skin of someone else, I'd use whatever I could to weasel them as well.
I don't know what you're talking about, McCarthy. But what I do know is what room each of you are sleeping in each night. And Mr. Dedrick, I know where your family is. And Mr. McCarthy, I know what thin ice you're on here, and the risk your uncle took to make sure you could stay in this school. So I'm gonna say it again. Get the fuck out of my way, or I'm gonna cause a scene.
That all took a while.
Oh yeah. At this point, so they're talking. Katie, where are you going? Are you going up with Joe, or are you staying?
I'll
removed?
go up with Joe. I'll go up with Joe.
Okay. Ding, ding, ding. Bang. You guys both head up and spot. You head to the table. They've kind of sequestered Laszlo in, and Block is looking at. He's got a pile of books in front of him, and he's currently reading a newspaper. As you approach, he doesn't seem to have noticed you, but you can hear. Actually, do you want to give me the stealth or something to kind of sneak up on him, or are you just powering through?
Oh, I'm not. No, I could actually stealth. I could give. No. Actually, I'm just gonna. I'm not a stealth person.
I was going to say,
Speed.
Joe, if you're being kind of loud and forward, I could sort of go like, if you keep him distracted, I can get the books and open my large book bag I always have as I like dart along.
Pick the ones you want, and if there's too many, just start loading me up.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, Katie, do you want to give me a stealth test to kind of like just circle around? Is that what you're going for? Sorry. So,
Yep,
nobody knows.
yep.
Yep. Give me a stealth roll.
Fantastic. You can have 2 points of luck for a hard or...
Normal's fine, yeah, especially if Joe's distracting. So you sneak around, and Joe, as you walk up, Block
Strolling.
looking down at the paper, looks up, doesn't recognize you, and just goes back to what he's reading. Underneath
Rough
his
day,
breath, you can.
huh?
Yeah, real fucking rough. What the hell, those bastards? I'm sorry. Can I help you?
I just wanted to check in and make sure you were doing okay. You know, it's not like the football team's ever been a particularly a good one, and I don't know. You look like you're off your form today. You know, we have to protect the athletic integrity of the school as much as we do the academic integrity. And as far as I could tell, you were one of the few bastions of sports that people care about.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm a little busy at the moment. Can we talk another time?
No, I don't reckon we can. Hey, what are you reading? I'm pretty busy. I've got, sports training that I'm pretty focused on, I'm here on an athletic scholarship. Weren't you too? Aren't you on an athletic scholarship? You don't want to let that slip. You really don't want to let that slip. They don't give out a lot of those, especially not here. It's not exactly known for, athletic prowess. There's only like, 4 of us? But no, I definitely don't have time to reschedule this. It's just, way too much training on, especially with the big games coming up. I mean, what are you even doing in the library, man? What are you looking at? What are you even reading?
So as all this is happening, you just like stalking around the side towards him. At first, he just tries to brush you off, but you just keep coming. And at this point, he looks around and he folds the paper and he stands up. And he's a pretty big guy, and he takes a step forward. You would be taller than him, though. He's a little shorter than Chaz. So he stands up and takes a step forward, and he goes, "Look, I don't know who the hell you are, but you need to step away. All right, I'm trying to research here, and I don't want to make a scene or nothing. Just go away, would you? All right."
How you don't know? Come on. Yeah, I run with Violet.
I don't know who that is. All right, just step away. Go on, step off.
I'm not gonna step. What are you telling me to step off? Hey, you're telling me to step off. Come on, who says that to a lady?
You also probably have had a conversation with him in the past. It would have been brief and like just polite and something, and this is definitely out of character and seems to not recognize you. At this point, Katie, you've wheeled around the side and you've begun to grab some of the books.
Can I quickly, this might have just been a slip of the tongue, but Block was the one who in our very first session came to me on the bus and mistook me as Violet, right?
That was Noakes.
That was Noakes, my bad. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Joe, do you want to give me, I could see fast talk if you're trying to just distract him or anything, or are you trying to like intimidate him? But what are you going for? Or are you just trying to keep him distracted while Katie grabs books?
Not very intimidating or fast talking kind of person. I think I'm just trying to I'm just trying to keep him distracted. I think I might even be trying to not intimidate him, maybe just deliberately rile him up.
Yeah.
Because I saw how well it worked for Chaz this morning.
Do you want to give me... I know you're more persuasive, right? Rather than fast talk.
I'm pretty persuasive. Yeah,
What's your angle?
Applies. I guess the angle is kind of... I would like to persuade him to be paying attention to me and the very annoying targeted things that I'm saying. And persuade him that, hey, what are you doing looking at books? You know, it's the week of the first game. You're here in athletics. What are you doing?
You should be doing something else.
Really,
you're just mocking him.
You're forcing him to sit down and have the detailed conversation about his athletic career.
I want him to focus on his athletic career because it's not, you know, we're not an athletic school, but you know, we could be. And if you just lied yourself, we really could be.
You see the risk of the football team getting weaker. Is one of the secure. All right, do you want to give me a persuasion check? And Katie, you begin to start to jam the books into your bag. So far it's going well. He doesn't seem to have noticed.
I'm going to burn 20 points of love.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Because of who I am as a person.
Katie, you begin to grab the books, and the last one you grab is the newspaper that he was reading, which you grab and push into your pocket. This takes a while. As this is happening, Joe, you will notice he does not seem to remotely care about the risk of a scholarship being lost, about any of the sport teams or anything, or any of the sports of the school. He seems to be completely past it, which is... Previously, this was one of the best football players, and really, like, you know, he lived and breathed football, and that seems to just been completely gone. He doesn't care, and he seems to just be trying to get you to leave. As you're pushing this, and as Katie's beginning to finish things up, he's going to head like, look, I'm going to get someone to help. You need to get out of my way. I'm trying to study here. And he'll begin to, like, try and go to get an assistant or one of the librarians.
I'm going to take the nuclear option. I just wanted to, you know, make sure you're all right because, I saw what happened this morning and it looked like you were on the verge of tears, you know, and that doesn't really seem like you. And I just wanted to check in, you know, do a bit of a mental health check on you and make sure you weren't feeling too fragile.
At this point, Katie, you finished grabbing the books. Do you head away?
Yes, I do. Do I have time to make a very quick psychology check on the setup as I'm going through it? I want to, I want to quickly have a look at where they've been parked for ages, and is there anything bizarre like, you know, no food there, and they've obviously been sitting here for like 12 hours straight, or is it like, you know, things like that?
If you're looking at that, so you can make a psychology. Don't roll it yet, though. You can step away, and it'll be based on what Joe says to them now. So you talk about that. You, Joe, you see him like flinch a little bit at it, and he goes, "Look, I don't know who the hell you are. I barely know Dedrick. He's just trying to push me and get me in a way."
Didn't you go on that field trip together?
I'm just trying to get through the day. All right, I'm just trying to get things done. I'm trying to do my study. I'm trying to do what I've been told to do. Just leave me alone, all right? I'm tired as hell. I don't want to do this with you, all right? Please just leave. I'm
gonna like covertly see if Katie's left.
Katie stepped away and is out of the way.
All right, see ya. And she's gonna go.
He takes a step forward, and as you begin to go, he watches you leave, turns around to the table, and you can hear him very loudly go, "Oh, fuck!" And one of the librarians will begin to come around towards him and confront him for A, swearing, and B, where the hell have all these books gone. As Katie, you dart out. With these books, getting out of the library will be very difficult, but you can scurry back towards the room you were all studying in and begin to lay them out there.
And
you'll
I'm
be
gonna
heading down
circle around
towards
that as well.
Okay, and Joe circles down the stairs and in a sense. Last thing we will do is we will return to Seb and Chaz, who have cornered Laszlo. What are you guys saying to him?
We see the two of them exit
At this
stage
point-
left.
Yeah, at this point you now hear like the fuck from Block, and Laszlo looks over at him and then looks back at the two of you. Get out of my way.
Of course, we wouldn't want to keep you, and Seb will just move out the way and like usher him to go past, and then meander off down towards the study room.
As you step away, Chaz, do you leave?
Based on like the blood pressure spike that I just had a few minutes ago, as I was talking, I think it's taking every like ounce of energy from Chaz to keep his mouth shut and to keep his hands still. So that's all he's doing. That's all he can do.
As Seb moves away and the opening behind Laszlo, there is an opening now. He doesn't go that way. He steps towards you, Chaz. And he says, "You're a fool, Dedrick. You're an idiot. I know you're not worthy to be here. I'm gonna get you expelled. Your parents are gonna waste their money, and you're gonna be a deadbeat forever. Don't fuck with me, Dedrick. Don't fuck with me." And he's right under you. You can smell his cologne.
Seb's still around and able to do anything, or have I left the scene?
No, you like stepped away, but when you look back, like you're like one row away, but when you look back, they're right next to each other, and it's pretty
Okay.
tense.
I will walk up to Chaz, and I'm essentially going to give Chaz and Jackson the option of maybe stepping away and just like put a hand on his shoulder and say, "Come on, Dedrick. New money and classlessness is not something you want to get involved in."
He's just looking right at you, Chaz.
This man has no spine.
I'm not going to be the first one to step away. He can walk away
He's
if he
not
wants
moving,
to.
man. He's right under you.
Katie, do
Walk
I have to
away.
go up and like drag them down here? What is taking them so long?
I don't know. I presume it's fine.
Chaz, time to go. We have better things to do than to waste our time with this weasel.
Walk away, Dedrick.
I'll take half a step back without turning around. Just to give him what he wants.
He nods and spins on his heel and heads away.
Trust me, when this is all over, I'll hold him. And you can turn him into a piñata.
Yeah. You go back to the others. I'm just going to go to the bathroom.
Alright. Art. Don't think I need a psychology check to be like, that's a terrible idea. Neither does Seb. And he's like, okay, bye.
Good luck. All right.
Yep.
So as we get ready to park the session, Katie and Joe have stolen the pile of research materials that Block and Trent were working through, and Block's beginning to make a bit of a scene, and librarians are coming towards him. It's probably a matter of time before he says like someone nicks things and they start looking for you, so you don't have a huge window. Laszlo has whirled about and headed towards Dr. Armitage's offices, where Trent is inside being rebuked by the librarians for tearing out a page, which he promises he had nothing to do with. Seb heads back down towards Joe and Katie, and what I want to know is, where is Chaz going?
Chaz is going outside, out the front door to find the shadowiest corner you can, like around the corner of the stairs. Just melt into the darkness and watch and wait for Laszlo to emerge.
Oh boy. All right, we might be beginning the next session with someone getting jumped. Fantastic. All right, hell yeah. Well done, guys. Let's park it there. So thank you all for playing. Thank you all for watching. We will pick back up next week with the remnant of the Tuesday as the week continues on and things get more sinister. Rock and roll. All right, we will see you all next week.